Hello, beautiful people, and welcome to the Star Wisdom Astrology course, which is all about the alchemy of the soul, which we'll go into a bit in a minute. Now, this is an introductory video to the course. However, there is also quite a lot of useful information in here as well. So I will be teaching some astrology too. But basically, I wanted to give you an overview of the course, how it's structured, and how I teach astrology so that you can get a better appreciation of how this is something completely different. So, my name is Deborah Moore. I can put a doctor in front of my name because I have a PhD in biochemistry. Yes, originally I was a scientist. And to tell you the truth, astrology was the very first science. And up until the mid 17th century, everyone at university, which of course were all men at that time, had to study astrology. It was the number one topic on the syllabus. And it wasn't until the mid 17th century that science and the church went their separate ways. But we'll talk about that more when we look at Uranus. So the Star Wisdom Astrology course is completely unique. I've designed the course specifically for very busy, creative, and spiritual people. Of course, you don't have to be all three of those. Most of us are so busy nowadays, the thought of actually studying something is like, well, how am I going to fit it in? And certainly, traditionally, astrology courses could take years. Mine took 7 years. And I think the majority of astrology courses will say they take a minimum of 2 years. Now, obviously, you're going to get plenty of time to practice during that time. But what I experienced doing my course was that there were lots and lots of techniques that I was taught that I never actually use. And in fact, there are something like 3,000 astrology techniques. And you can imagine that the majority of astrologers do not use all 3,000 techniques. Most just use a handful. And I'm going to teach you 10 techniques here. And once you get into it, once you start to understand how it all works, you'll probably find that you don't even use all 10 either. You'll find one or two that you go, I really like this technique. I really resonate with this particular technique. And that might become then your dominant technique. Certainly for me, the age clock is my dominant technique. It's the one I use the most. And that one comes in lesson 7 with Mars. So it's 10 lessons. Now, each video is sort of 20 to 45 minutes long, and each one has at least one piece of homework. Some of them have two for you to practice. But even that, it's up to you how many charts you want to apply that homework to. So you're going to get another video which will show you how to get unlimited free charts, and you can apply the homework to as many charts as you like, or just your own. Creative. Because I appreciate that for a lot of us nowadays, our brains are wired in such a way that we need visual information. We need to see things and to experience things rather than sitting and calculating. Old style astrology involves a lot of maths. maths. And I know that in the past, it's been one of the things that has put people off learning astrology. So with the Star Wisdom course, as long as you can multiply by 6 and add up to 30, that's about the limit of the maths that you'll need. It's a much more creative course than mathematical. And it's a very spiritual course. Remember, I said about the alchemy of the soul. So I believe that an astrology chart it's like a pure potential. It's a map of pure potentiality. It's not fixed. It can be interpreted in a whole range of ways. So just simply put, it can be interpreted at a very low vibration, or it can be interpreted at the highest vibration we can access right now. We're always growing, so there'll always be more. And we all live our charts out, our star maps out on a whole spectrum of vibration. Some things we will be operating on at quite low vibration, and some we will be operating on already at quite a high vibration. But the whole beauty of astrology and understanding your star map is that you can take any of those expressions, and if you understand how they can operate at a higher vibration, then you can choose to operate at a higher vibration. And it's what I call the alchemy of the soul. It's where we're taking a raw material, a default position, and by default, we will always be at low vibration because it's our monkey brain that wants to keep us safe and secure and is very reactive. So our default position is usually quite low. But once we understand our star map and we understand the potentiality that exists in it, then we can alchemize that very low, slow, dense expression into a much purer, lighter, higher vibration, more spiritual expression. So as we go through the course, I will be talking about how the planets express themselves at a very low vibration and at a very high vibration. So the Star Wisdom syllabus is basically split into 10 lessons, and each lesson is taught by a planet. And each planet wears a specific hat. Now, this is my Neptune hat, and Neptune teaches the first lesson. And it is because I'm very Piscean and Neptune rules Pisces, it is the hat that I love the most. And it's the one that I would choose to wear if I was wanting to go out and to dress up. But each planet has its own hat, and you will become familiar with those as we go through the course. And hopefully they will remind you of the energy of the planet. So what does this hat make you think of? I call it my fairy hat. So Neptune has that sense of wonder and magic that I associate with that sort of fairy realm, that fairy expression. So each lesson is taught by a planet, and there are 3 modules, if you like. So the first 3 planets, which are the outer planets, we look at the learning styles that are required for this course. Sometimes you will need to memorize things. Sometimes you will need to use your intuition, and sometimes you'll just need to practice in order to gain the skill. And then we have the 3 planets that are associated with self-identity. These are often called the ego planets. And these are all about how our mind works, how our emotions work, and how our physical body operates. And then we have actually 4 planets There are the tool planets. These are the planets that we can use to help us along our way. So we start off with 3 chapters, if you like, in each module. And each chapter is based on a specific energy. So we have yang energy, you know, that sort of masculine action type energy. And in astrology, this is called cardinal energy. It's like initiating. It wants to do things. It wants to get something going. And all 3 planets that sit in this area are very much to do with the will. I will, the universe wills, or I need to engage my willpower to make this happen. And then we have what I call the neutral zone. And this in astrology is called mutable energy. It's much more flexible. It's able to go with the flow. And it's all about growth. The planets that sit here, they want to experience more, and they want to grow, and so they're willing to change. They're willing to be flexible. And then we have the yin zone, the more feminine, the more receptive zone. And this is what we call the fixed quality in astrology. And it's much more security orientated. It's what's going to keep me safe. It's what I will work for in order to achieve what I want and to feel safe in myself. So each lesson is split into 3 areas again, and they have similar qualities. So the first section is going to be about knowledge, and I will talk to you about the planet, a little bit about its history, a little bit about its astronomy. This is all stuff that will go in one ear and out the other, and over time you will start to gain that knowledge, but it is stuff that needs memorizing. So you do have to engage your willpower to memorize it. And the second part of the lesson is where I will teach the skill. This is something that you're going to have to play with. You're going to have to use your intuition. You may have to change some of your ideas. You may have to be a little bit flexible to learn this skill. And then the third section is about integration. This is about the practice. It's about the application of the skill, that constant repetitive nature, so that you actually start to absorb how that skill works, and you start to understand it, and it starts to become part of who you are. Will add to your security in terms of your identity as an astrologer. You'll feel, the more you practice, the more secure you'll feel in your astrological practice. And then we look at the learning styles. So these are the first 3 planets, and they're going to teach the learning styles. So Pluto is about all the things that require you to memorize. And Pluto looks at the qualities, and there's nothing in a chart to say what the qualities are. So this is something you do have to memorize. It's not difficult at all. Neptune teaches about the intuition. It's like, what does that make me think of? What does that remind me of? What do I feel when I see that? What does that say to me? Because a lot of astrology is about intuition. And then Uranus teaches about experience. Remember, it's about that practice. It's about using that skill so that you gain the experience. And then we have the 3 planets that are about our self-identity. They're also called the ego planets. They're also called the family model planets. So we start with the sun, which is all about our sovereignty and where we stand in our power, where our unique ability is. And then we have the moon, which is more private. It's about our emotions. And we're going to look at all the planets that are hiding in the chart and operate at a much more discrete level. And then we're going to look at Saturn, which is all about our authority and where we can stand and where we can teach and where we can show who we are out in the world. And then we look at the 4 tool planets. These are the planets that we can use to help us along our way. And each of these planets is going to teach you a very unique skill. So Mars, which is all about our motivation, is going to teach you about the age clock, which is a bit like an internal biorhythm, and it motivates us to do things, to create and do something new. So then we have Mercury and Jupiter, which are both about expansion. Mercury is about communication, and we're going to look at clicks and about how you can compare your star map to somebody else's star map and see where you resonate with each other, where you communicate best with each other, and therefore where you can grow. And then Jupiter is going to look at the North Node and the ascendant. And Jupiter is the biggest planet in the solar system and just wants to experience more and to grow, to know more. And the North Node is your signpost and where you're going to be able to grow more. And then we have Venus that's going to teach you about the planetary transits, these opportunities that come in from the outside and how we can accept them and how we can use them to the fullest potential that they have on offer to us. But you need to know they're coming. So Venus is all about receiving. So here we have it, the StarWisdom syllabus, 10 planets and 10 lessons. So each planet has a focus. This is just another way of describing that circular diagram. So we have the cardinal, mutable, and fixed zones. The cardinal zones are always about the will. The mutable zones are about growth. And the fixed zones are about security. And our cardinal planets are Pluto, Sun, and the Mars. Our mutable planets are Neptune, Moon, and Mercury, Jupiter. And our fixed planets are Uranus, Saturn, and Venus. And Pluto, Neptune, and Uranus, because they're the most outer planets, I call those the gods. And then the Sun, Moon, and Saturn, because they're to do with our mind, our emotions, and our body, I call those the ego planets. And then Mars, Mercury, Jupiter, and Venus are the tool planets. They're the ones that we can use to achieve our goals. So there's 10 planets, 10 lessons. And I've just gone through briefly here. Neptune, you're going to look at the elements and the star map image. In Pluto, you'll be looking at the qualities. In Uranus, the aspect colors and shapes. With Sun, you're going to look at the hemispheres and the quadrants. Saturn, you're going to look at the planets that are on the house cusps. The Moon, you're going to look at the planets that are hidden. And with Mars, you're going to look at the age clock, a unique technique to this style of course. Venus, you're going to look at the planetary transits. Mercury, you're going to look at clicks, which is another unique technique to this style of course. And then Jupiter, going to look at the North Node and the ascendant. And with these skills, you have everything you need to read a star map. These are all the skills that I use. I don't use anything extra. So here's my star map. Now, it's also called a natal chart or a horoscope, but basically it's a map of the sky at the moment that I was born. And all star maps look different. Other astrologers will use different styles of star maps or natal charts, horoscopes. Everyone uses something slightly different. But for this course, you're going to use this style because it is the simplest. It doesn't involve using any maths to figure out where everything is. And it's very visual. Remember, I said this is a course for creative people, for people who are very good at visual information and they're using their intuition. So it's all based in color. And it's called a Huber style chart. I studied with the Huber School, which sadly no longer exists in the UK. And it was very much about the visual. It was a very experiential course and very much based in color and using the intuition. So the whole Star Wisdom course is based in the Huber astrological psychological school of training, which is where I trained nearly 35 years ago now. And the Huber school uses the Koch house system. Other schools, other astrologers use different house systems. The house systems were all developed in the Middle Ages by monks. And basically, they are based on the latitude that somebody was born. And they give different size houses. Now, ultimately, they all give roughly the same sort of information. But for the Star Wisdom course, you will need the Koch house system. The age clock and the clicks and the hidden planets are all very much based on the Koch house system. So I'm just going to go through a little bit of what this star map is showing you. And for that, I'm going to use a tool that I designed called the Astro Lotus. So I'm going to stop sharing for a moment. So this is the Astro Lotus. It's a tool that I designed to teach astrology, and an artist friend of mine created it for me. It's all made out of recycled materials, and unfortunately, it got a little bit broken. I live in a van, and it's hard to keep things in immaculate condition. But what it shows you is the star map and how you can break it down into 5 levels. So we're going to start with the outer circle first. And these are called the houses. And basically, there's 12 houses, and basically they represent the outside world. It's where the planets are playing, what areas of life they are engaged in. Now, in a normal star map, it's very rare to find them all exactly the same size. They can be very different sizes. This point represents the highest point in the sky, and this the very lowest point in the sky. And sometimes they can be on a much more of an angle than just vertical. This is always horizontal. This represents what was rising on the eastern horizon at the time the star map was constructed. It's called the ascendant. And this represents what was setting on the western horizon at the time the star map was constructed. It's called the descendant. So everything above here was visible in the sky, and everything below was below the horizon of the Earth. Now, within that, we have the wheel of the zodiac. And depending on what time of year the star map was constructed and what time of day the star map was constructed, this can be in any orientation. So on my star map, Aquarius was just rising on the eastern horizon at the time I was born. So Aquarius is sitting in this position for me. So these are the constellations of the zodiac, and they are all fixed stars. And then within that, we have the planets, which are always going through the constellations. They look like they are passing through the constellations. They're actually passing in front of the constellations, and they're never equally spaced like this. But I just wanted to show you the different symbols. You'll notice that 3 of them are done in red: the sun, the moon, and Saturn. And remember, those are the self-identity planets, the ego planets. And if when you see the star map, those are always done in red in a Huber star map, not in a different type of astrology star map. So we've got the planets going through the zodiac, and they all go through at very different speeds, so they can be in any different configuration. You'll notice that star maps all look very different. And then within that, we have the aspect pattern. And this represents how the planets are talking to each other. So this planet is directly opposite this one. And so we have a red aspect connecting them to each other. So they're going to be talking to each other because they're facing each other. And then the final level is actually this empty circle in the middle. It's not just for me to be able to hold it up. In every star map, Huber star map, you'll see an empty circle in the middle. And this represents our sort of divine connection to all that there is, because there is no personality. All of this represents like personality. And in, our ultimate divine soul, whatever you want to call it, there is no personality. It's just connected to the divine. It also represents us standing on Earth. And then we're seeing the planets in front of the constellations. So, for example, let's say we're standing on Earth and we're looking at the sun, and it's in the front of the sign of Leo. So we know that it's sometime between the end of July and the first few weeks of August, because that is when the sun is in Leo. And so we can look at all the planets and see from our perspective on Earth which sign of the zodiac they are in front of. And the sign of the zodiac acts as like a costume for the planets. So each planet has a sub-personality, part of our total personality. Each planet is a sub-personality of our total personality. And then it puts on the outfit, the costume, if you like, of that sign of the zodiac, which will give it quite a different quality depending on which sign it's in. It will make that planet operate in quite a different way. And then we see which house it plays in, which area of life it's operating in that particular star map. So we're starting from the middle, we're looking at the aspects, how they're talking to each other, and then the sub-personality, what costume it's wearing, and then what area of the life it's playing out in. So that's the Astro Lotus. So for this course, there are 10 teaching videos taught by the 10 planets, and you get 3 bonus videos. So first you get a video that teaches you how to create unlimited star maps. You can put 100, you can hold 100 at any time, but then you can take one and say, I don't need that one anymore, and edit it and put another one in. So you can basically do unlimited star maps. And then you're going to get another video by a friend of mine who has been an astrologer for 60 years. And she's going to talk to you about the planets. And then you're going to get another video by another astrology friend of mine, a much younger astrologer. Most astrologers are quite elderly now. We could really do with some new young ones coming through. And so this is being taught by Joel, and he has created this beautiful way of seeing a journey through the elements of the zodiac. And I'm sure you will find it fascinating. And what's your investment? Well, the recommended retail price is 500. But for a limited time, I'm doing a special offer of 200. So if you feel drawn to doing this course, get in there quick. And all you have to do is email me and say that you're interested. And then we will organize the exchange and I will send you the links to all the videos. So thank you for watching, and I hope you found this video informative and enjoyable. And as one of my students said, really engaging. I love you all.